Hello, viewer. So, instead of doing an extremely boring and long and blind and not particularly skillful or interesting in any way playthrough of a game, I have decided to do a probably equally boring but at least less long review of a game I've recently finished. The game in question is of course Final Fantasy XVI, as you can tell from the title. I am not completely sure why I chose to do a review of this game in particular. I did play a bunch of other games recently too, but something is just pushing me to do it. Well, anyway, maybe by the end of this review I'll understand what it is and purge this fucking Final Fantasy itch from my system. Whatever the fuck it is I'm reading here, it's probably gonna contain spoilers, so yeah, please be warned. I'm not really a particularly big fan of the Final Fantasy series. I am not really a particularly big fan of JRPGs in general. I mean, I think they're fine. They can be fun and interesting. I kinda dig the J part of them the most. Like once I get into them and play long enough, it turns out that I just really like the Japanese quirkiness and weirdness in them and find them to be quite funny and interesting. On the other hand, I hate the linearity of them and the usually horrifically long tutorials and incessant explanations of every single horrible fucking mechanic, no matter how simple or obtuse it might be. For example, take Persona 3 Reload. By some miracle and ungodly amounts of patience from my side, I managed to get like 50 hours in that game, and still, occasionally a tutorial window pops up to teach me how to play the game I've synced 50 hours in already. It's fucking ridiculous. Especially because the mechanics of that particular game are not really that complicated. At all. Also, I really agree with what Yahtzee once said about JRPGs. I am paraphrasing here, but it was something about how they always turn out to be about a bunch of teenagers killing God. Anyway, I do enjoy some JRPGs. Can't really say which one is my favorite, but in general I didn't like that many of them. I kinda dig Atlas games, so I did manage to beat Persona 5 and ended up actually really liking it. I liked it enough to buy Persona 3 Reload, which turned out to be a fucking mistake, because that game turned out to be far too boring and too long for me to ever finish. Like, there's a part in the middle of that game where absolutely nothing happens. Like, the tempo of it just drags to a massive standstill. I still am thinking I might play Metaphor ReFantasio, which, in my opinion, has a horrible and too long of a name, which has nothing to do with the game itself. But I get the feeling that I really need to be in the right mindset to get into that fucking adventure. I just was thinking I want to give a shout out to a JRPG I actually really enjoyed. It's called Ni no Kuni 2. You play as the president of the United States in that game, and you get isekai'd into a fantasy world. So, as the prez, there are like kingdom management mechanics, because you're the president after all. And I just thought the entire package of that game is just super cute. It has the really lovely Ghibli art style everybody likes, and the story and premise are just ridiculous. Especially, well, the beginning of it's actually the best. Like, it hooks you immediately because of the fucking stupid premise. So yeah, Ni no Kuni 2, play it if you haven't yet. It's alright. It's alright. Right. Now, finally on to Final Fantasy. My history with the series is actually not that long. The first one I played was when I was a kid and I borrowed a PS1 from my friend. He had a bunch of games for it, and one of the games was Final Fantasy IX. I never touched any of the other games he had, and just played Final Fantasy IX all the fucking time until I finished it. I got completely engrossed and drawn into it, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it. Relatively recently, I tried replaying it, driven by nostalgia of my childhood, and I just found it like really super slow and hand-holdy and extremely linear. So yeah, unfortunately, I just couldn't get into it at all this time. I also kind of got into the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy. Like most people would know those as the games where with Lightning, the pink hair lady. Lightning, you know? And my memory is kind of fuzzy on them, but I think you play her sister in one of the games as well. I don't remember, really. Like those those games, the Final Fantasy trilogy is like a pink and brown blur in my mind. I also kind of think there was one game where the combat mechanics were like about changing outfits or something. Yeah, I can't really remember. They're all blurred in my mind, but I got into those. They're not that good, mind you. And I just think it's really stupid to call games like Final Fantasy XIII, then Final Fantasy XIII-2, etc. I think the other name for that trilogy is Nova Chrysalis. So why not just call them like that, like Nova Chrysalis 1, 2, and 3? I mean, that would make far more sense, right? Anyway, I found those games interesting, but I wouldn't really recommend them to anyone. They were kind of boring-ish. The combat wasn't that good. But for some reason I got into them. I don't know why. After the Nova Chrysalis trilogy, I got into Final Fantasy XIV. That's the MMO one, A Realm Reborn, it's called. I actually enjoyed it. I remember it also being kind of boring and grindy, but to be fair, all MMOs kind of are. But it did have it had its good sides. I remember leveling up a bard and a paladin combo on my character. In that game, you just create a single character, and that single character can be all the classes. You just need to equip a different weapon, which is really cool. And I even joined a guild on my bard pally, and I did some raiding with him as well. I remember enjoying the boss fights. They were really well designed, and the mechanics were fun to play. Yeah. One other Final Fantasy that sticks out to me is Final Fantasy IX. Oh, sorry, Final Fantasy 15. I got into it as well because I really like the setting of it. However, I made a big mistake in that game, and that mistake is doing all the side quests. And those side quests ended up turning me off the game so bad. Like, they were so horrible. Like, the side quests in that game are just such horrible filler. There are quests like to pick carrots and shit like that. It's really bad. Like, it didn't work for me at all. So I eventually I just gave up on the game. Maybe I'll go back to it eventually. I remember I found it interesting. I enjoyed playing it, like exploring, riding around in the car for some reason. I thought it was good. Yeah, I actually might ended up going back. Maybe I'll retry Final Fantasy XIV again. Yeah, maybe I just put a podcast on and grind. Like I think that game's good for that. Yeah, as for the other Final Fantasies, I never played the big one, the Final Fantasy VII. Not when it came out. I tried the remake, but couldn't get into it either. I don't know why. The game looks amazing, like it's really beautiful. But I kind of hate Cloud. He just seems like a massive pussy, and he's not convincing as a super soldier guy at all to me. Anyway, that's basically my history with the Final Fantasy games. I decided to share just to give some context on where I'm coming from here. Yeah, now fucking finally, and thank you for your patience, let's talk about the actual topic of the video, Final Fantasy XVI. So yeah, Final Fantasy XVI was released in 2023 on PS5, but nowadays you can play it on PC and Xbox as well. I played the PS5 version, and actually I have no idea which version is technically speaking the best. Probably the PC one, if you have a powerful enough computer. But the PS5 version, I played it fine, yeah. I don't really know any of the development timeline for the game. I never followed the development of it. I did look through the Wikipedia article for the game and picked up that it was developed by Square Enix Creative Business Unit 3, which is just such a hilariously mundane and boring corporate bureaucrat name for a development studio which makes like super imaginative and weird games. I think only Nintendo can compare with Square naming here. They have a development studio called Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development Division, which to me is also quite funny, just for being such a soulless corporate name for a development studio which is known for like super imaginative and colorful games like fucking Super Mario and shit. So yeah, I have no idea if Final Fantasy XVI is especially significant for Square Enix for some reason. Yeah, I really don't know. According to the wiki, it was in development since 2015, it got messed up by COVID as well, etc, etc. Yeah, from what I gathered, the development was run by the guys who worked on Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO, which actually kind of makes a lot of sense to me, because the map design of it, and the structure of the side quests, and just the overall like elements of it kind of remind me of Final Fantasy XIV quite a lot for some reason. The story of Final Fantasy XVI is set on two continents. There's the North Continent and the South Continent, but they're both called Valisthea, so it's set on the dual continents of Valisthea. The story follows Clive Rosfield. He's a young royal fella with ridiculous anime hair. Clive has a papa and mama, and the papa is the king of the Kingdom of Rosaria, and the mama is basically a huge bitch. He also has a brother called Joshua. He has a maid slash servant girl slash faithful childhood friend or love interest called Jill. And we're also, at the very beginning of the game, we're also introduced to Torgal, a dog which will follow Clive, you, around on your adventures all the time. You can even partially control the dog. Now, I'm really sorry here, viewer, but I'll have to get into some very specific Final Fantasy XVI semantics here. You see, viewer, Clive is a shield, which is like a protector, and he is supposed to protect his brother Joshua, who's a very little boy until Joshua grows up. And Joshua is especially important because he's a dominant. And a dominant is basically a person which can transform into a massive kaiju or like a Godzilla type monster called an icon. And it's spelled E-I-K-O-N, not I-C-O-N, but it's pronounced the same way. It's something that Final Fantasy really likes to do for some reason, I noticed. Anyway, every kingdom in Valisthea has their own dominant, and they use those dominants to exert their power. Also, every kingdom has a massive crystal in it, and those mother crystals, as they're called, are basically sources of magical power and are very, very important to the overall daily life of the Valistheans. Every kingdom also has slaves. Those slaves are called bearers, and they can use the crystal powers, and everybody's really, generally really horrible towards them. They tattoo their faces, they belittle them by making them carry crates of apples, and then they get into trouble if they drop an apple, and they force them to use their magical crystal powers to fill up buckets with water, or they force them to use their magical crystal powers to dry laundry, and probably for other menial tasks that I didn't see. Yeah. So the kingdoms of Valisthea are also intertwined in wars for territory and influence. There's all sorts of political intrigues, there's backstabbings and the likes. And on top of that, there are also random Final Fantasy creatures and tropes like chocobos. There's also a Moogle, or whatever the fuck the little flying creatures are called. I also tried looking for the ridiculous looking cactus monster, which shows up in many Final Fantasy games. I wasn't able to find it, but I'm pretty sure it's like out there somewhere. But yeah, I'd say such like the cute and whimsical Final Fantasy creatures like Moogles are quite understated and pretty rare. In general, Final Fantasy XVI is trying its hardest to be a mature game for like big boy mature gamers. It's heavily inspired by Game of Thrones, and it shows everywhere. Like, for example, it's definitely the most violent Final Fantasy game I played. Characters in the game spit out the occasional fuck and shit here and there, which is something I'm definitely not used to in Final Fantasy games. Side quests show you that there are people who treat their slaves horribly, just horribly. One of Clive's allies is a madam, which like unapologetically like runs a brothel next to a barracks, and all the soldiers like go to partake in some sexy times in the brothel. So yeah, it's a world where basically fuck fortresses exist, but you can also ride around on chocobos. And also, since it's inspired by Game of Thrones, and also because it's a Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy XVI contains like a lot of different characters, locations, and it has numerous lore entries and definitions, like a ton of them. Now, viewer, I'm quite a stupid individual with extremely bad memory and just the barest like sliver of concentration. And normally I would completely be like unable to remember all the names of the people and places in the game. But a very good game about Final Fantasy XVI is that it's got people like me like really covered there. The feature is called Active Time Lore, and you can call it up by pausing the game during cutscenes. So the ATL pause menu will then contain all the lore entries about the people and places in question that they're talking about in the cutscene. So in case you ever find yourself lost during cutscenes, you can just pop ATL and refresh your memory with like very little trouble. I just liked it so much, and I think like a system like that should exist in every other game, like every other JRPG or RPG in general that has a lot of characters. It enables you like to truly understand what the fuck is happening, who is talking, etc. So yeah, ATL, Active Time Lore, like good job, Square. Thanks for thinking that shit up. Now, as you can imagine, Clive's little Perfect Kingdom life doesn't go that well for that long, and eventually he ends up branded and enslaved, and his kingdom of Rosaria ends up in ruins when his brother and father end up dead. So he loses everything, basically. It's a horrible thing that happens to him. But as a true bro, Clive manages eventually to get his shit together, to even remove his facial tattoos, and just reform himself in a way that allows him to fix the broken world of Valistia, and avenge his losses, and free the fucking slaves. On this mission, he's helped by Sid, who's like a charming rogue fella, and there are also a bunch of other runaway freed slaves and the right-wing people would call them leftist allies. And Clive and his little posse, they slowly start undermining the patriarchy of Valistia by deciding to destroy all the mother crystals, thusly freeing its citizens of the horrible yoke of addiction to either crystal magic, you know? It might not sound like it, but the story is good, viewer, I promise. The characters are really well written, I thought. Clive is a good protagonist, I like him. Like, I kind of like Clive, he's good. There's a really nice love story between him and Jill. There's a decent bad guy. Well, there are multiple bad guys and gals. There's an openly gay dude or two in there somewhere. Clive has a cool dude for an uncle. There's a spoiled child king which you just wanna like bitch slap. And there are all sorts of other characters. Yeah, I liked it. It's all like really good stuff. Now, Final Fantasy XVI is not turn-based like most Final Fantasy games are. It's a pure like action game. It's very similar to Devil May Cry. I actually read that the guy who designed the combat in Devil May Cry also worked on this game, so yeah. During the game you don't really control anybody except Clive and Torgal the dog to an extent. As Clive, you have multiple icon stances at your disposals to dish out damage. So yeah, you can see where this is going. Like every big boss you defeat, you'll get access to his or her's icon, so you can control the power of like wind, fire, ice, some weird black stuff, other elements, you know. Yeah. Every icon stance has its own set of attacks. You're able to mix and match as you like. You can also level up your abilities, and I just feel like there's plenty of space to fuck around with builds around here. Yeah, plenty of space. Of course, after a certain amount of time, I just got sick of all this, and I just held down L3, which basically levels up all the abilities for you. Eventually, I kind of got settled into using my little combination of a fire stance, earth stance, and electricity stance, and I didn't really experiment outside of those too much. I kind of liked the combination. I found that particular combination, I used it enough damage. It was relatively fun to use. to use. I also thought visually it looked good, like this attacks look good and smooth and nice. Yeah. The combat in general is relatively fast-paced. It's not particularly challenging. I found the vast majority of enemy attacks to be very well telegraphed, and I actually enjoyed the combat against the big boss monsters. I kind of feel like that's something that was transferred over from the MMO, because in MMOs the boss attacks are usually very well telegraphed, well, more or less, but in this game they're very well telegraphed. I found it was really fun to dodge and then punish the bosses for missing or blocking their attacks and then like bitch slapping them with your rock hands and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty good. The enemy variety was enough, I think. There are lots of different monsters. Sure, after a while, like the enemy encounters sort of repeat, especially when you start clearing the hunt board for rare boss monsters. But in general, it's fine. Like it's fine. It's fine. Like to me, it was completely fine. One thing that stands out are the main story boss fights. Now those are very unique and very well done, I'd say. They're visually like just stunning, and they generally have multiple phases with everything culminating usually with everyone transforming into icons and just beating the shit out of each other. It combines both like pure action combat and quick time events. It's just crazy madness. Like the icon fights are very like visually impressive. They just like scream into your eyeballs. It's crazy. They're really good. I found by some miracle, like the sheer spectacle of the icon fights somehow manages to not devolve in just horrible visual noise of quick cuts, close-ups and shaky cam, like it does in Michael Bay movies, especially Transformers, which I hate with a passion. But instead, it manages to stay like coherent enough for you, the player, to actually see and understand what the fuck is going on during those battles. Like where all the world is crumbling around you and there are fireballs and fucking particles flying fucking everywhere. I bet that wasn't easy to do, so whoever directed, framed or choreographed the kaiju icon fights, like the team that did that, like they got a 2 thumbs up from me. Like that's really good work, I'd say. Besides combat, there isn't that much to do. The gameplay besides combat basically consists of running around talking to people. There's not much more to it than that, I'd say. It's always go to a place, talk to dudes, go to another place, either talk some more or kill something. There are no mini games or stuff like that. You're just Clive, you're running around, or you riding around on a chocobo and talking to people, or fighting other people, or fighting monsters. I mean, it's fine. It's generic. It's sort of boring. It's absolutely perfect if you like listening to podcasts, especially while doing the side content. Like, it's perfect for that. Now, Final Fantasy XVI is built on a proprietary engine by Square. Apparently, I'm not 100% sure on this, but apparently it's a heavily modified or tuned version of the Final Fantasy XIV engine. And the thing is capable of really nice particle effects, but I thought like some lighting effects could have been a bit maybe stronger. I mean, maybe it's more of an art direction thing though. Like the game visually is really consistent, and it's obviously planned throughout to keep that consistent visual style. It looks medieval and bleak, mostly washed out, just like Game of Thrones, sort of. But some of the vistas in the game are just beautiful, like chef's kiss, like Final Fantasy, high fantasy stuff. I really liked one view of a gorgeous castle in the distance, and it has a massive crystal behind it. There's really a massive waterfall vista, one of them. Like in general, like they really look, the areas in general look really good to me. Like the color palette is not overly saturated. They keep in line with the overall mature aesthetic like the game's going for. To be honest, it's not really something I expected in a Final Fantasy game. But yeah, the art direction is fine. It's understated. As I said, the colors are a bit muted in the environments, etc. Now, you might notice that the palette of the game changes a little bit in the videos that I'm showing you. The earlier parts of the game are more lively and well lit and more saturated than the later parts, which turn into a purplish hue. This is to reflect the overall state of the game and the continents of Valisthea. I think it's kind of a nice touch that the environment completely changes, but visually I kind of prefer the earlier parts of the game. The character design is a bit boring, I have to say. I mean, I dig how Clive looks. That might be the most important thing since you play him. I think his animations are nice looking and fluid as well. I also like Jill's design. I thought that it was neat that Joshua is very visually consistent, like since he was a little boy up to till he's an adult man. Also, as an adult, Joshua, it's kind of neat that his tattered clothes are kind of reminiscent of flames, which is in line with his role or his icon power as the Fire Phoenix dominant. Like, there's no way that was by accident. It looks kind of reminiscent of like fire flames and stuff. I just thought it was kind of neat, kind of cool. Rest of the characters, as far as I can think of them, they're kind of generic. I mean, they're all like pretty anime boys and girls, but they don't really stand out amongst themselves. I kind of get the feeling it's because of the clothes. Which is like the clothes is really like medieval and generic on the NPCs. You know, it's just tatters and rags. So yeah, the realism of the tatters and rags of it all kind of hurts the game, in my opinion. They should have done something like in Final Fantasy Lightning Returns and maybe have some sick-ass like fashion designer guy do the character costumes to just liven things up a little bit. I mean, it's a Final Fantasy game after all. What else to say? One dude that stands out visually to me is Ultima, the big baddie and the final boss. I think he looks great. He's got like 4 arms, he's got really weird and creepy eyes, and just kind of reminds me of Mads Mikkelsen a little bit. And that is, of course, until he transforms into his higher form, called Ultimon or some such nonsense. I mean, he transforms like 5 times or something. Like every character in this game fucking transforms into something. But after he transforms, he just looks like a generic anime Final Fantasy god creature monster Pokemon thing. It's pretty bad, shitty, I would say. I mean, in general, I think the icon designs are kind of boring to me, but that might be a bit too harsh. They're all right. They're like cool enough, especially because when you actually get to play them, you feel the heft and the size of them during combat. It translates, like the sheer power and the weight of them, I think translates, is well translated in the gameplay, even if I feel like they could have looked a bit better. I mean, they're fine. If I was 14, I would think that they're the coolest fucking thing ever created. But yeah, I kind of feel like that Shiva stands out among the icons because she's the most human-like, and because I just think her cutscene during the fight with the rock fellow, I forgot his name, is really like awesome. The rest of the icons are basically just giant kaiju monsters. There's a knight on a horse. There's like a shrieking banshee. There's a pretty ugly Godzilla monster. There's the phoenix that I talked about, and so on, so on. So yeah, I mean, in general, visually the game is strong. It's very strong. The art direction is very consistent. The color palette is kind of bland and muted, but that's by design, so it's fine. But don't worry about it. Like the game looks really good, and the muted color palette, like it goes way up in saturation during the icon fights. Like they're very visually strong, and the colors are very strong and saturated and high contrast. Final Fantasy XVI sounds awesome as well. The sound effects are really nice, meaty. They sound really good, hefty. The music's really great. That's like a staple in the Final Fantasy series. I especially like the map music, which is basically some kind of a remix of the classic Final Fantasy theme. I just think it sounds great. But generally, all the songs are good. There's a jukebox in the game in your little hideout, and you can listen to various tracks. You can also buy tracks from merchants, and I believe you get a couple of tracks as quest rewards as well. So yeah, it's all good stuff. One thing that was kind of weird, and I thought was missing, is like the iconic Final Fantasy victory music that plays when you win a battle. It's in the game, don't get me wrong, but it only plays on very, very special occasions. And I kind of feel those are too rare, and it would have been good if they rewarded me with that tune after more of my battles or more of my victories. Like the silence behind after some of the victories, in battle victories, just seems super loud without it. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird decision to use that victory music so sparingly, but I mean, it's fine, it's tolerable enough. It's tolerable enough, but it's an L in my book, I'd say. On the other hand, the voice acting is just like stellar. I really loved it. Not only the actor performances, which I thought were just so well casted, they're really good, they're really convincing, really well directed, but also the recording quality of them as well.
Useful trick. Freezing and thawing the spray to make mist. How did you learn to use your powers like this?
The Masters made me do it. When the Crusaders took to the seas, to keep the fleet's movements from prying eyes. I'm fine.
No, you're not.
So to put this into context, before Final Fantasy XVI I played through Cyberpunk 2077, which is, as you know, another AAA game with really good high-budget voice acting, but for some reason, and to my ears, far worse like recording, technical recording direction and quality than Final Fantasy XVI. By that, I especially mean the S's in that game, in Cyberpunk. They're really shrill and all like S, like really harsh, I'd say.
As soon as it starts, there'll be no backing down. No chance at extraction. No chance of survival if anyone notices.
Excellent.
But if this works, you'll gain more than you ever imagined.
Times when I had something to gain are long gone. Now I got nothing to lose.
That's kind of grim. Then again, who am I to judge?
While in Final Fantasy XVI they're really under control and just technically so well mixed, so well tamed, and just the audio is just clean as fuck, I'd say. It's so clean.
It used to belong to Rosaria, didn't it?
Once, though it's been in the Ironblood's clutches for far too long.
As was I. For 13 years, this rock was my home. I know its secrets only too well. This path was abandoned after an ether flood. They don't guard it anymore.
The perfect little shortcut.
That stuff, like the technical prowess of it, makes the dialogues so pleasant to listen to. Like, really amazing stuff sometimes. Like, every actor is awesome. They sound awesome. The sound technicians and audio engineers did really great. I mean, I just love it when somebody does a good job like that. Like, it makes me happy just talking about it and thinking about it. Really good stuff. Really good stuff, but not much to say about it. Like, it's just really good. So, like all Final Fantasy games, 16 is also kind of slow to open up and let you roam around by yourself around a bit. Usually what would happen is you'd finish up a big event in the main story, and then suddenly, and by some miracle, a bunch of side quests would become available. Then you'd get the chance to roam around the world without much guidance and just explore for a bit. Besides side quests, which I have to say are all pretty generic and kind of boring, go there, kill thing, fetch item. There's also a bounty board which tasks you with killing like stronger, more elite monsters for better rewards in both like reputation and also crafting materials. And besides that, there are like slabs around the world, and you can interact with the rock slabs, and then you can do timed combat challenges, which is something that's just so supremely boring to me and generic that I kind of hate just writing about it. I just skipped all. I didn't even try them. Yeah, I hated them. One thing that's kind of weird about the side quests, I did finish all the side quests, mind you, but one thing that's kind of weird about the side quests in the game is that sometimes you get an unproportionally good reward for a quest that's completely skippable. For example, that's the case with your chocobo riding skill. So chocobo riding is a reward for a side quest. And I'm pretty sure you can completely skip that side quest and just finish the game without ever getting chocobo riding. Now those like quote-unquote special side quests are marked with little green plus signs instead of the usual exclamation marks. So yeah, I pay attention to those to just finish those side quests, I guess. It's kind of a weird decision to diversify the side quests like that, and to hide like big rewards like riding behind them. But I mean, for me it turned out fine. I did all the side quests, so it didn't bother me. But I have to warn you that the side quests do get really, really boring, and they're not challenging at all in any way. But despite that, I kind of enjoy them actually immensely, because the sheer stupidity of them allowed me to pick up a bunch of them, put on a podcast, and just mindlessly grind through them. It was really good for that kind of gameplay. I kind of think the stories behind some of them might have actually been good and interesting, because I did listen to some of them, they were decent. But after a while I just kind of zoned it out and just skipped through all the side cutscenes. So yeah, you might wonder if the game is replayable. To be honest, I have no idea. There's a New Game Plus mode, so I'm sure there are achievements hidden there if you like achievement hunting. I just figured that the monsters would become even bigger damage sponges than they already are in New Game Plus, so I'm not really inclined to replay the game at all. I feel like playing it once is enough if you play for the story, like I do, primarily. But if you want to get all the achievements, I guess, if you want to min-max your build or experiment with different icon abilities, I guess the game lends itself well to replayability. Yeah, I gotta mention the Aridi Stone that's located in your hideout. You can replay missions there. You can change the appearance of your character there as well. Yeah, just you can train there. So yeah, it's a thing for replayability as well. It's just not something for me. I very rarely replay games. It's very rare that a game makes me want to replay it. I don't think I have it in me to do it for Final Fantasy XVI, but yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that the New Game Plus mode at least exists. Now, I played Final Fantasy XVI on my PS5 in performance mode, and I have to say the frame rate was not really the best. I think the goal for the developers was to have it locked at 60 FPS during combat, and then between 40 and 60 FPS during open world segments, and that's exactly what it is. You can notice that the frame rate drops in certain areas, and it can get like especially jarring if you get to a place like that where the frame rate drops and then jump into consistent 60 FPS immediately after. You just see how much smoother the 60 FPS is. It didn't really ruin my game time or my immersion, but yeah, if you're after the smoothest 60 FPS experience, you're not gonna get it on the PS5 in performance mode. Just play it on PC with some monster GPU and I'm sure it'll run fine and smooth. I've had no other technical issue with it besides the choppy frame rate. There were no crashes, I didn't see any bugs. I think once Torgal got in a weird place on the map, but he unjammed himself out of it by himself. And that was it. So yeah, technically, Final Fantasy XVI is I'd say, well tested. It's a complete product. It doesn't contain any game-breaking bugs. Just the occasionally slightly choppy performance. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Yeah. Man, I've been writing this script reading this script for a while now, and I really don't have any other conclusion to this other than to say the game's fine. The game is fine. The combat can be a bit button mashy, but it's fine. The frame rate can drop occasionally, but it's also fine, really. The side quests are boring, but they're also, fine. I mean, the game's fine. And that might sound dismissive, But I think I mean it in a really good and positive way. It is a fine game. It'll tide you over if you get into it. It's not too demanding or difficult. You can actually make it as difficult or demanding as you like, because when you start the game, there are like jewelry items, and one of the jewelry items, if you equip it, it will do the combos automatically for you. One will dodge for you automatically, and one will, I think, block for you automatically. So I didn't equip any of them, but the option's there. It's nice that it's there. So yeah, the game, it's not too preachy, it's not too hand-holdy. It's got a good story. The story is not overly long or drawn out. It's got great sound, it's got good graphics. It's a fine AAA title, I'd say. I didn't notice any microtransaction shops behind it anywhere. There are DLCs you can buy, expansions and stuff if you want more of it. I mean, it's all fine. It's fine. But I remember one thing. I really like the end of the game. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I just think it's really good. It hit me in the feels. I enjoyed it immensely. I'm really happy the devs did it. Good stuff, the ending. Yeah, good stuff. The ending I really liked. So anyway, I started like producing this review because I thought I'd be able to figure out what kept me going through the game. And I think I actually now know the answer. It's actually quite obvious. It's basically because the game was fine to very good at parts. So yeah, who'd have thunk it? If you make a consistently fine game all around, which excels in certain parts, I, as a player, will enjoy it enough to finish it. Whatever the bad parts of it were, or the annoying parts of it were, they didn't bother me that much. Like the parts that I least enjoyed about the game were possible to just automate completely. And that's something what I eventually did with creating my build and equipping my gear. I did grind out the best sword and like equipment items in the game, but I'm kind of happy that I basically had the option to nullify all the annoyances that would usually drive me off a game, like manually trying to level up my skills and trying to figure out which ones are doing what and how strong it is, and equipping gear and comparing numbers and charts and shit. So I'm super happy that I had the option to nullify all annoyances. I would just hold down L3 and the game would just whisk away all my worries and fill out the charts and the Excel sheets for me. Like the level up Excel sheet was filled for me. I didn't have to do it myself. So yeah, in general, good job Square, I'd say. Good job Final Fantasy. Actually, the game is making me wonder what they're gonna do next for Final Fantasy XVII. I kind of appreciate the game. Every Final Fantasy game in the series is kind of different from the other, but still kind of the same. They all contain certain elements that are same, but they kind of always go in a different direction. I kind of think that's cool for a series like this. Yeah, I just hope Final Fantasy XVI sold it well enough to warrant a sequel. I think it did, probably. It sold in the millions, like it probably. So yeah. I'd recommend it. Play it if you want. That's it, viewer. Thanks for watching and listening. This is a departure from the generic boring LP videos I did until now. It's probably just as boring, but I mean at least it's a little bit shorter. I hope that's fine. I'll catch you on the next one eventually. Bye.